So once more with feeling, we've returned to this new meeting. Um, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of changes, a lot of differences going on. Hey, Sithm's welcome. Um, big thing for you for region stuff. Um, currently switched to the general meeting info. Uh, but for you, if you can get with your region head, not region head, co-region head, uh, regional DMs, all that good stuff, and gather information on potential for a overarching plot that might coincide with other regions. We need to have another meeting tied with all region heads where we kind of discuss this and availability for like working on this collaborative overarching mission series together. Um, to kind of like gauge availability there with your team.
It is mostly just me. I think Neb is mostly doing other stuff, but I think Priz is doing some things as well. So
Okay. In that case, I'll be putting out a scheduler after the meeting. Just fill that out so we can, get a gauge on when we can have that separate meeting because we need all region heads to be able to discuss this. And I guess for Baruja, if there's anything you want to add, just post it in the patch notes for Legacy, or you can post it in No Mic channel for the change in what's happening for this downtime adjustment. Or there's any regional stuff that you want to discuss before that. Otherwise, general meeting.
no, nothing pressing for Baruja. We've been doing the fiend stuff, and people have been dealing with that sporadically. So
Cool. Yeah, excellent. All right. So, for regional stuff, or not regional, general meeting stuff, obviously there's a good amount of stuff happening at the moment that we have not really had time to fully discuss. So, and I don't have time for a ginormous meeting.
Okay, for general meeting stuff, 3 things I have marked down. First one is that Sithum said vampire is ready. I'm not sure how to roll it out though.
So, vampire itself does require some requirements to attain it. If I remember correctly, you need to have the race vampire, which requires some interaction with the vampire lords of Bruges. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Sithums.
yeah, it's having a contact who is at least a vampire to turn you, and ideally without any secondary repercussions, because if you are not friendly with them, they will potentially exercise, or they might have a secondary quest kind of pop up for you when you swap, because
Yeah.
You
just
don't
RP shenanigans.
want to be a ghoul.
We love
Can
ghouls.
players start as vampires, or is this something that can only be obtained through interactions?
I didn't have a problem with people starting new characters as vampires, but if other people are against it, that's fine, and we can just have it be only through special contact stuff.
Well, we would still need the vampire template for it.
I have no strong
Change the
opinions on
template.
it as long as we have clear notes on how it's handled.
Yeah, vampire template's still in the class as well. So.
Mhm. Yeah.
As long as we have the template for the vampire race, fine.
Yeah, no, we should still have the template. It's in
Yep.
there.
Thoughts on whether you think it'll be messy or doable as something available?
I think it's doable for something available. I mean, there's vampires other outside of the Perusian, nobility and whatnot. Um, so it is viable as a non fully restricted class for people who are new players who are wanting to make or not new players, new characters who are wanting to make their new character a vampire. Current
How
characters,
common is it to be
obviously.
sired by a vampire but not really know their lord?
Say again.
How common is it to be sired by a vampire but not really know their lord?
So, I mean, obviously, there's several things that could happen. Like their lord could just be dead. or maybe they broke free of their lord's control if they were enthralled to them at one point. But they would almost always know them unless they were intentionally sired and then their master literally just left. So it's not common.
I can't believe their vampire's a deadbeat dad.
You're right.
Well,
You-
son, you're a vampire now. Well, go
you-
fuck off.
Yeah.
You awaken from the turning, and here I'm going out for milk.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously with vampires, if we have any players who are wanting to play as the class as like a new character, their backstories will be a bit more scrutinized when we approve them.
Mhm.
Same thing with with like Ashen or Warlock or any of these classes that have some form of restriction to them. But yeah, it should be good to release as a character selectable class upon creation.
Yep.
Any current character though would need to have an in. So if you play as say like a cleric, whether you're a current character or a character who was recently made or is currently being made, and you want to then take levels as you progress into vampire, you will need to follow the restrictions there.
Oh, give us the list of people who actually did the mission for that one,
Sure.
so that we know that those are the 5 or 6 people that actually do get the free thing because they did it.
Yeah, so those who did complete the mission would, I believe, have the offer that you gave them, Sithams.
Yeah, they'll know an actual vampire who has said
Yeah.
that you can exchange your favor with me, and I will turn you, no strings attached, because of the stuff you did for me.
Yeah.
Mhm. I believe Earlobe is the only other person that gets that because they actually have talked with somebody that'll do it.
Who else was in this mission? God damn, it's been so long.
You don't have to do it now. We just need like the name so we know who to be like, hey, you actually did this, you get it. All that.
Yeah. Oh no, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm typing them out as just.
Mhm.
Okay, I found them.
Yeah,
all.
it's fine.
Yeah.
How does that look?
Okay.
Anything? Also just making sure, but a sire doesn't necessarily have to be something super invested or available, right? Vampire sires won't necessarily be protective or anything.
It'll. So for people's backstories, generally speaking, no. Not that vampires have a lot of reasons to do that unless they were like also a loved one. Obviously there's a lot of
Yep,
stories.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, that looks about right. The only other thing to add, I think currently adding it so that players cannot turn other players just to avoid
Correct.
stickiness with the launch, at the very least, should be in there.
We could just limit the ability to turn other players to a certain level of the class.
Yeah.
Not strong enough.
I think
most,
that
would be like a tier 4 thing at that point.
yeah, like a big
to
thing,
avoid any issues.
like a what's the word for it? Plot. No, like plot something. A plot twist.
You're already dying or something.
Like continuity break. It's like kind of like messes with. It doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Whatever word that is, I can't remember it right now. It's kind of like that, where vampires, why don't they just have an army if they can just turn anyone? So having a limiter to it, such as character class level or something like that, would make more sense.
Yeah, I think I also have some side lore written up that also says that vampires just have trouble controlling more than proficiency mod of other characters.
In the system for
I
now
heard
though,
too.
for all intents and purposes though, for now player vampires cannot turn. We
Yeah,
don't provide a specific level or whatever where it might be in the future.
Yeah, that's fine. We had talked about it briefly in the vampire thread out in public, so people will be aware at least. All right.
Mhm. Yeah. But with your proficiency level of control and the fact that a vampire turned by another player does essentially give that player domination over said other player, I think it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Once players do hit the level that we decide for that.
Yeah.
I suppose for you, Sithem's just kind of look into the class and apply a level to it for the ability to turn other players. And then, since it's ready for release, we can slap that on World Anvil.
So there is the possibility that ND might try and use Prestige to unlock a magical girl class.
What do you mean by magical girl class in this case?
I think it's up to be determined, but they're trying to get him. They might spend it to get a magical girl class if they get it. Like the whole transforming thing.
I'll include this in next patch then so thumbs, go ahead and toss it on World Anvil anytime in the next week, and add the bit about sires in writing backstory. I'll add the note about deeper scrutinization in the patch notes itself.
Sure. I'll probably ping Nev at some point.
Mm.
Because while he's not done any Bruiser stuff recently, he does still have access to World Anvils. He can still be useful.
Yeah, I don't know if I have
I
a class
I
that is full on magical girl, like maybe summoner.
I I have one set up. I just need to change it here. And in case they do, because they were brought up through me.
Say again?
I have one. I just need to change it to Syrik to go over before we do anything with it. If they do that,
Hmm. Hmm. Gotcha.
so that's kind of already handled. I just need to redo it to fit to Syrik because of all the stuff.
All right.
If they do it,
Yeah.
but it's there.
You. All right. Well, that should handle vampire. Now Sinkus brought up the issue that we have with my miniatures
Wait,
just
what
fell off
did
my
we
shelf.
want to do with the players involved in the vampire unlock quest?
So they just get the standard. They can retrain if they want for free.
Mm-hmm.
Let them free retrain?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's standard practice. If the player unlocks a class, they get a free retrain. But with Syncus's most note in Sunday meetings stuff, they brought up the concerns tied with uh, downtime days being consistent, but there's a week in between when they drop and um, when basically there's nothing available. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if we can close that gap, that'd be good.
Either that, or just let them like go into a DTD deficit for the next phase or something.
Well, that like week also coincides with the fact that we don't there is that week period where even full-time DMs don't need to run
Because they've already ran their 3 times a month type thing.
Hmm.
That just do it. Just do it. Them said, we'll just give them that like time period where they can spend the whatever amount of DDTs for it. That'll fix it.
For specifically the scheming things, I
Yeah.
think that was the issue.
1 to 2 weeks yet. I included this in order for us to resolve downtimes, plus our full-time thing is 3 per month, not 4, but I'm kinda unsure what the best way to resolve this is.
It's what? It's like 5 DDTs for gameable? I
I think
think
it's up to 10.
we'll just put out you can spend fake 10 DDTs during that time period if there is no days going out due to the unfortunate circumstance of time for that if it's needed, but only for schemable.
I think it'd be easier if we just close that week gap, where we
I
don't
mean, if that's
disallow the expenditure of downtime. I know that it's there so we can finalize remaining DTDs.
I can close the gap if that's what we want. Right now
Mhm.
I don't think we have any backlogged because our team has been really on top of things.
Yeah. Like if we need to reapply the cap, then we can, but we have a pretty solid downtime team. So I'm not too worried about that. I think for this upcoming downtime drop, we just close the gap. Right. Just reading through No Mic chat right now, real quick.
But that said, I absolutely can see there being some issues if people say wait until the last day of a period to do shenanigans. Of course we can notice and smack that if it does happen, but yeah, basically both issues will exist, one or the other, but for now scheming does seem more like a common potential issue, so I'm fine with closing the gap and just having the 1 week warning be the same warning as how we used to give a 1 week warning before downtime closure, except the next week will be release.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not trying to make any extra messiness or work. It was just a case of if we wanted to keep the break, that was my proposal. That's all.
Mhm.
Oh, it's gonna be messy either way, so your suggestion was really good.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it's going to be, as you say, messy. Um, yeah, I think we just seal the gap, and if we need to, we can just utilize the seventh suggestion. Yeah, I mean, if any DTD period is missed, all their days are just assumed to go to recuperate, so they're just basically resting and sleeping off sicknesses. So nothing that we really need to handle as downtime handlers. Is just For those backlogs, post them into Firehouse, and I can see if I can't look at them. Mm-hmm. Yes. With all that noted, though, before I get into the third thing for Sunday meetings, people may have noticed the work in progress monk update uh, that Red Heron posted. I'm currently playtesting it in the game that I'm running for the Living World on Friday. It's nowhere near done. But if staff wants to give it a look at and give some review, feel free to post there. And excellent. Okay.
Got a link for that?
Message link. There you go. Yeah. So it should be on a similar power level to like Barbarian and um, Cleric and Ashen and so on and so forth. The other classes that are of similar spheres of divinity power level.
Not available for public testing currently.
Technically, yes. I say technically because I'm technically testing it right now in the Friday game. But yeah, no, not available for public. I've told the players in that game not to post it to others, so it's not publicly viable for anyone outside of that game. But post your notes there in case you're unaware of its existence. I'll be looking at that channel to adjust the class as play progresses. It should be noted that the wording in that class, there might be some holdouts because I did literally copy pasta it from the Spheres of Divinity book, so it uses terminology in that book, such as training level instead of proficiency, or fortune instead of advantage. I'm pretty sure I got most of those cleared and converted to 5e terminology, but who knows? So if you do see a word that's like strange, but it's like very clearly supposed to be something that's true in 5e, don't worry about it. All right. But yeah, no. Any review on that is very much appreciated. I've also been looking at the Artificer update, but that one has taken a backseat because Monk is so complicated. A lot of combos. Is Full Metal in call? Yes, they are. Cool. Okay. For your first note, demiplanes, they're definitely not common. They're like I think a 7th level spell. They're pretty high level. But they do utilize a lot of the rule sets from Pathfinder, so they do have mechanical indications of what you can do with them. Look at Pathfinder if you want to get an idea of what people can do. So if you want people trying to understand them, then I can provide you some lore drop in Firehouse for that. As for the second bullet point you have there, not really a bullet point, but second sentence, um, creating spells is definitely more world and balance discussion than it is simply Fritz and Legacy. Getting that approved for the region is good and all, but you're gonna need to make sure you get with balance too. Because making new spells is definitely a balance discussion. Possible, yes. We don't have the system to make new spells in place, as I need to convert it from Pathfinder, from my homebrew of Pathfinder. Um, but we can just, work as a balanced team if players do that. Um, so if Region Head approves, we can work on that together, but I would definitely make it a higher rank, not just they graduate class faction benefit. Because if you make it, say, someone graduates the university, which seems fairly low ranking, we're gonna have a lot of new spells in our hand, and that's a fuck ton of
I'm
work.
fine with signing off with it in a thematic sense. That is to say that if spell crafting is something that exists and can be done, then yeah, the Academy would probably have that as something for its high-up graduates. But for mechanical purposes, like Nerp said, we're not actually gonna say there's a new spell that was from some Eldryan mage unless it goes through balance too. And this should not in any way make it easier for players to make new spells.
There's a lot of spells I was having you look at before, so I need to look at my notes on that. Yeah, I mean, spellcrafting is definitely not a low tier function. So if you want it as something that can be tied to a faction, as like a guaranteed reward for a faction, um, like I said, definitely make it high rank. It shouldn't just be a
I would
graduation
not
thing.
accept it as a reward personally.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, no, spell research. I believe we have rules in place on how long it would take to make it, because the researching spell lore downtime action is a thing.
I would only accept it as a thematic thing, like a restriction. That is to say, for example, that a player can only get through a certain rank by creating a spell. In the future, maybe once spell crafting is a thing.
I can see that, yeah. Yeah. Well, if it's a new spell being made, like they're making a new spell, there's not really lore required to be added to it. Because
Those are my current thoughts on the idea. Always up for change, but yet.
yeah, like if the spell's being literally made from scratch, then in there, and it's made, the lore is this one player made it. Other than that, yeah, no, those look fairly decent. Your bullet points you have. All right. Let's see here. I know there's a lot of deities. Like jumping to a different topic. In
Also, I say
review,
adding lore, as in like if someone says, for example, this NPC is a high up mage in the academy, then they should have a spell because that matches this lore, then I will require the staff trying to make that NPC and their spell to both get it balanced and write lore about how they made that spell and what the spell does.
I mean, yeah, no, if
That's what I mean by lore.
if a character would know a spell, then they would know a spell. But from what I was gathering, this question was tied to making new spells that never have existed before. Which means any other character besides the crafter would not know the spell, period. Regardless on if they would have the power for it. Yeah, like, sure, the higher ups would then learn it because the player researched it and turned it in as part of their thesis paper, as an example. But no other character would know it. Straight up. But yes, there's a lot of deities I need to put on World Anvil that have been posted onto Divinity Team. If the World Anvil team wants to help put those on World Anvil, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, if they're all good to go or good enough, I mean, I can throw them at Neb as well. So
Yeah.
Do we have a pending list?
I know there's a few that I responded to you, Systems, with. I was like, this doesn't fully fit. But most of them were looking pretty good. So
yeah, I did make the edits to cut into.
Yeah.
Though that being said, I might have been misusing Shadowlands and Boneyard because I got the two confused. So there might be. I did fix all the references in COD Dentus, I believe, but there might be other deities that I mixed them two up with.
yeah. I'll just give another review since you've done updates, and then I'll give it like a thumbs up if it's good to just be slapped on World Anvil. But yeah, keep an eye on that if you're a World Anvil team. Let's see here. As always, before we go to the next topic, if I am needed, while you can ping me in other channels or the like, I might not get to them in a timely fashion. If it is needed in a timely fashion, ping me in Firehouse. Just because I'll read it there and I'm like, okay, cool. If I have an answer right away, because like let's say I'm walking to class or something, I'll just respond then and there. But if I'm like I need to be at my desk so I can look at my notes for this, I'll mark it as unread, and then I'll be able to get to it when I can get to it. But if it's in Firehouse, I'll go over those questions generally when I'm at work. So like tonight I'm going into work. I'll probably be looking over the Firehouse questions that are currently in there. They're not in call, so they don't know what I just mentioned deities. So. Outside of that, though, we do have Neb bringing up the Tier 4 materials and harvesting. There's a whole balanced discussion on that. I have not looked at it personally yet. So if there's anyone who has discussed those, if you can give me your thoughts, that'd be cool. Otherwise, I'll probably be looking over those when I go into work tonight.
Yeah, I've not really looked at it because it was econ
My
stuff.
thoughts for right now are that it's not urgent as far as I can tell, so we should wait on you getting a look at it and let Neb speak on it when available.
Fair enough. I know with the rank up or the tier up to tier 2, uh, people have been really wanting to get at those new materials. Um, on my end, they're just waiting for structures. Structures, I just need to put on World Anvil and do a few minor tweaks because of a few changes I did recently. But, you know, time has been focused on school. But fortunately, as of today, or technically 2 days ago because I didn't have any classes on Friday. Anyways, I don't have any homework because I'm on spring break. Huzzah!
Hmm.
So hopefully I can get some real good work done on the equipment guide and everything, and can start slapping more of that onto World Anvil. By get work done, I mean slapping on World Anvil. Other than that, though, since the last thing in the stuff for Sunday meetings requires me to go over it, which I'll be doing most likely tonight at work. Are there anything
I
else
have
people
one
would like to
more
bring
thing
up?
typing up right now.
Excellent. While they type that up, is there anything anyone else would like to bring up or discuss?
We need to notify the GM team about the static thing.
Static thing?
Making sure they're posting the channel.
Gotcha. Yes. Definitely. For that, that's an easy just at Dungeon Master
Yep.
at part time, just being like, hey, if you're running a static game, make sure to post the scheduling so it's noted.
There is a channel for it too.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else people would like to bring up while Legacy types up their message? I assume you're having something full metal as you're typing. Um, sounds like a pretty good system. So yeah, hopefully I'm able to look at it tonight and we can get that approved and adjusted on World Anvil. But I
Okay,
don't
so
see
a
it
bit
having
of a
any
major
issues.
thing related to divinity that we've needed for a while. We discussed this a year or more ago, but basically every single region has been missing some major cultural and historical background that we haven't been able to fill out, which are proper write-ups on how exactly religion functions within Kydron as a plane, and the individual regions. What I mean by this is that, for example, we don't have a clear framework on how the worship of deities work in each region, laws and or persecution surrounding such things, how it integrates into culture besides state/major religions and patron deities. Eldaria has gotten somewhat of a freebie there since it's inherently religious, with Tiffin and the governmental structure being theological, but the other regions all definitely need some notes on that, which we haven't filled out yet as far as I know.
This text speech is a hell of a drug, isn't it? Let me just bring something up real quick just to make sure I'm not speaking out my ass. So, regarding deities, faith, and the cultures therein, I mentioned this to Divinity Team a good amount of time, since I am now enacted Divinity Head until we have a new one, which I remember if Legacy approached you about that, Systems, if you want to take over the role. But hey, if you want to take over the role, welcome to Divinity Head if you want it. But as part of the discussions way back when, I just did discuss how these things function, how the churches function, how the deities functioned. There's a whole documents in it, in the lore channel on the drive. So that's already been discussed. It's already been written out. How they work for the individual regions. There is a section on each regional page on World Anvil that goes into the different deities there. I believe our Logos is still outdated. I'm a banana and I keep forgetting to update it for current deities for Age of Omens. But I have mentioned in the region channel which ones are current.
Yep, we discussed seriously needing to make a document for like approval versus disapproval and whatnot. It just never got filled out or worked on thoroughly, I think.
Yeah.
Eldaria definitely never got filled out, so I need to work on that with Fritz, but I wanted to make sure this was something we're all good on starting up again now.
Maybe we can work on it, yeah, no problem. As for Eldiria, I'm pretty sure they have a list of deities that they favor on World Anvil. Yeah, they embrace Typhon, and there's cults on Eldrase and Xandranthos, with many giving prayer to the Sevenfold Veil.
Actually, Bruges needs their deities on World Anvil updated as well.
They should have theirs unless it's changed since.
I mean, it's just on the actual like info side panel. We still got Abadar, Apsu, Dahak, Desi.
Oh, it has those old ones.
Some
Okay.
second probably.
Yeah.
But what I mean more is like, I'm gonna flesh out how exactly non-Typhon deities are worshipped and or tolerated throughout Eldaria, and expand on that with your approval as acting divinity.
Gotcha. So if you want to expand on Eldiria's one, then that's totally fine.
I don't think this is as big of an issue for Perugia because it's not a theocracy. Obviously, the Church of the New Dawn is very prevalent, and they do hold effective, theological control over Dancia. But
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say everywhere else is more standard D&D religion, where there's just kind of like a lot of interspersed gods, and the only ones that are really shunned are the evil ones, as is tradition.
So, as I've written it for every region, obviously, what Setham says, it's like kind of standard D&D sort of thing. Each region does have its favored, which I've added to the religion section of the World Anvil page, and those that they have disfavored, if any. For Brugia, that's their write-up on the religions. It's fairly clear which ones they favor and which ones they disfavor. So, and as Sitham says, they don't. It's not a theocracy, so it's not as important to go super detailed. If players start focusing on the religion of Brugia, or start focusing on the religion of Arlogus or Dolator, yeah, we'll expand it further. But I don't think it's a huge focus.
We just allow people to worship.
Shaking my head, did they learn nothing from 500 years of occupation? Where's their brutal theocracy to prevent the return of vampires?
Yeah.
That's called the oppression from the Inquisitors from Eldiria and the oppression from the Inquisitors of, well, air quotes, the love and acceptance from Nepalis.
Yes, love and acceptance. Does it also come with the whip?
I mean, it's just the way. Praise the sun.
Dollar just lets people worship whoever they want. I forget what the fucking word for it is.
But yeah, no. Generally, unless it is looked into further, I don't think it is needed expansion. At least not for Bruges. Definitely not for Dolder, because Dolder is just like freeform D&D. Any DD, do what you do.
As long as you're not like going up to someone, hey, you gotta worship Axel. Axel holds gun to your head. Generally, they don't care. Just don't fuck around.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel free to write up more details, especially for Eldiria, because Eldiria is a theocracy, so having more details than what I have on their World Anvil page would definitely be helpful. Because I mean, their World Anvil page is a paragraph, and it's not even a large paragraph.
Yet also question about divinities actually.
As a warning, I have about 16 minutes. I just noticed the time. Shoot your question. The Waybringer fell during the Age of Omens. I think at this point, like 74 years prior to
Age
the
of
start
Omens.
of Living World.
Super recent.
Yeah. The Living World,
How
when we
common
first
is it for,
started,
like-
was 70 years prior.
Mhm.
And we've had some years pass since we started the Living World, so. So, like, most of these pantheons are very, very recent, and they're only starting to take real form kind of like in the past 10, 15, 20 years. Before that,
How
they were
common is it for like localization of perceptions for deities? What I'm thinking is basically like Eldryan's conceptualizing most deities as some draconic thing even if they're not actually dragons just because of culture bias and the lack of direct divine intervention / presence on Kydron.
it is
I
entirely possible. Whether it's likely or not, that's dependent on the region. Like if you look at it in the way that Elder Scrolls does their deities, um,
What I mean is more just making sure that they won't get smited for it lol.
yeah, I mean, it could happen. Eldiria itself, though, the way I wrote it, you can change this since you're Eldiria head, and I'm sure you've done a lot of crazy stuff since I first wrote up the page. They just had those deities listed. Everything else was considered banned. Uh, Obviously, I'm sure that's changed since I wrote it because I wrote it like years ago. Um, but if you look at it from like Elder Scrolls, from a standpoint from Elder Scrolls, the region of Elsewhere, the homeland of the Khajiit, um, they view deities that are like human deities or elf deities as Khajiit. So they're like, hey, that person over there who is the deity of protection and justice or whatever, their name is not the name that humans gave them, but this other name, and they're, a deity of the moon or something for us. So culture can play a huge role in things. Um, for most part, I will add that to how it is listed in the World Anvil page of how they view the deity, if it's notable. But if you want to expand on it, feel free.
So can we take the time to appreciate that Lex TTS said L Ryan instead of Eldaria?
Pretty funny, But yeah,
Nerp's gonna stay as divinity head for now then, and I mean that works decently. We'll just write stuff and run it through him since divinity is such a rarely interacted and almost always deep world building thing.
yes. one thing that I just remind of, based on Divinity, if you are a dungeon master, I know in the past we have outright just banned all forms of prayer. If a player does want to pray, if the player is below tier 3, they might be able to get some effects from prayer. But if they're below tier 3, and a player prays and they successfully get an answer, don't make it like mechanically relevant, but it can be something like, hey DD, can I get some guidance on this question here that I need to answer it for? So like, which path should I take, up the hill or through the forest? You can have the DD respond by like a light breeze braces them on the shoulder, showing them that their DD is there. Doesn't say which path to go down, but it does say that, hey, your DD's with you. Yeah. They might get mechanical answers once they hit tier 3. But I know a lot of players have been wanting more interaction with their DDs, and in the past we've had that disallowed, but it is allowed now. Just keep it non-mechanical. Unless they're, of irrelevant
How's
tier.
that look?
Should
Looks good.
probably emphasize you actually have to be in tier 3 for that to work. You can't just make a tier 3 thing and have it work.
Also, question about Tiffin. Actually, you know how Eldryan lore is that he descended 70 years ago.
God damn it.
What about Typhon?
Is he just like flying around Kydron chilling now, or did he pull a biblical angel and descended briefly to help and then fucked off out of the plane again?
All deities have fucked off since the Age of Omens, the battle at Oblivion concluded. So there's no deities currently on plane.
Tiffin did pop in briefly to show up physically 70 years ago, right?
Well, he himself was a ghost. If the ghost campaign continued running instead of going on basically indefinite hiatus, he would have been an NPC that they met, that the players met, interacted with, became an ally of theirs, and he would have been part of the battle and would have awoken with them. Major spoiler, sorry. He is a character. He was there. He was essentially just a human, or not really human, a dragonborn, who then awoken with the players. The Church of the Sevenfold Veil is those players, which is why it's so vague, and I don't have any write up for it because
Okay,
I don't know who those are.
Good to know. LOL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another general thing for the current deities is that they weren't previously deities. They were most likely just strong beings before, and they've just taken the top spot now.
Yeah, some of them were previously deities and just forgot what they were, which is what a ghost is. Is that the prayers they faltered. They no longer had the faith energy to infuse them with that divine power. So while they might have been a deity before, they forgot. Yes. Typhon is one such deity because they were relevant from the beginning, but have long since been forgotten.
It's called a retrograde amnesia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because deities in Syrik are. If you've ever played Black and White from Lionhead Studios, they do have a very similar nature where faith does power them, and they can be forgotten.
Yet did he show up during the calamity?
He did show
I'm
up.
trying to nail down how Eldaria began worshipping him basically, and I've been under the impression they physically saw him helping, which led to worship.
He
But
he
it could also be like. Go ahead.
he, per his World Anvil page, did indeed show up during that age, the Age of Omens. Woke up, kicked some ass, and basically saved Eldiria from oblivion. So him being taken over from, because the Age of Omens began when all the deities died, and all the previous Galarian deities died, or fell, or were forgotten, or whatever. Because some of them are not actually dead. Um, he took over the previous deities that Eldiria used to focus on. He is there. He is real. He showed up as a big fuck off dragon and saved their bacon. So, you know, they didn't really have a false church in Eldiria, which is probably why they're so fervent and theocratic in their belief.
So we're just gonna like mute this entire part of the VOD so the people that believe in Typhon don't get more zealotous.
I'm already posting in chat the Typhon's a fucking ghost, and these are all losers.
Yep. Time to
Time to put Granddad down. I saw Typhon come down and kick ass. No, you didn't, Grandpa. You're delusional.
Typhon showed up to ask for Tree Fitty.
It's true.
wait.
350.
I've got a bunch of notes on that, but yeah, that fits with what we've got currently written for cultural stuff, so it's good to have clarification. Thanks, Nerp.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nerp, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's more or less 3 main types of gods. Like, they're all powered by belief to some extent, but there are some that are also just inherently powerful, or because they were powerful before.
Yeah.
Some that are manifested entirely from belief, and then I forgot what the third one was. Oh, people that are granted power by.
That's about it, but yeah, it'll be really good in my opinion for all the regions to get back to working on the religious culture stuff and notes to go alongside with us working through writing the remaining divinity stuff.
Yeah. And then there is the third one where people who like earned their.
Anything else for this meeting?
I thought I had something, but it's not coming anymore. My mind's blanking. So well, the cultural stuff for other regions is tied to the region head, as the region head handles basically any regional lore. So Kate for Doladur, Sithams for Perugia, Earlobe for Arlogus, Legacy for Eldiria, and I handle pretty much every other region. If someone wants to take over a region and work on stuff, they can let me know. Yeah.
Alright, take care folks. Sithums, ping me anytime if you want for modifiers, plus if you think we should add some flavor stuff for the vampire unlock if you want that to be an actual in-world event.
It'll be secretive, so it's not gonna have any effects, but I do have we finished up the mountain event stuff finally, so there'll probably be some bonuses from that.
That's what the word was.
Gotcha, so mostly a meta unlock.
Daughter is polytheistic. That's the word.
Yep. Most regions are polytheistic. Eldiria is one of the ones where it's more monotheistic, but they do happen to have some people, such as like Eldranthanum and the other dragon deities, that they do favor. It's just they're so fervent in Typhon that it's you know.
We just allow you to worship whatever because there's not really any churches on the island.
Yeah.
You can just kind of worship whatever you want.
Imperialist integrative polytheism where everything is just subordinate to a mono deity.
Yeah. But yeah. Good stuff, good meeting. I'm sure I forgot a fuck ton of things. Hopefully we can get back onto the swing of things. Until then, though, if you're a region head, make sure you get with your people. I'll be posting a thing in the Adventure Team channel so we can get a proper region meeting scheduled. And until then, I'm going to drop the recording here. Appreciate everyone's help, all that good stuff, and keep up the good work.